My name is Michael Oatman, and I'm known around town as a playwright and a lot of things actually. A poet, a newspaper person, and pretty much a gadfly and troublemaker. But some years ago, a dear friend of mine named Mary Williams, Dr. Mary Williams, approached me with this idea of doing a book of poems that paid tribute to James Brown, who I've always looked up as an icon not only of music but of business and of culture and other things. So I jumped on board the project to be an editor, and in addition I threw in a poem, and that's the poem that I want to read for you today. I never got around to getting a title for it, so it's called Untitled. Like a train yanking away from the platform, this rap, this music grows smaller in my rear view. Not good or bad, just foreign. But just as I brace to leave it, abandon the noise and clatter, he calls to me, just beneath the clusterfuck of loud for the sake of loud. He calls. James Brown, his beat sandwiched between empty flourishes of nothing, his sound almost buried as some half-literate felon blathers barely distinguishable voice as if it were a cure for cancer. Even within the young fool, James's heart is beating and lifting the young fool to God. He doesn't know it though. But time has washed over me, taken my best and left its mark. The burden of knowing better, I feel it. It is unmistakable. The only tether left banging and beating, making me, forcing me to remember. When I was young again, when the world was right again, when life was a thing to be lived and not endured. James Brown calling me back, painting memories like Monet's. I can swallow it now, the bang and rattle of riot and ruin, this rapper, this youth soothsayer of the moment. I can bear him now. James has fed me my tonic because of me, the only king that counts. I can pop the latest in my tape deck like a siren song that will never die. I can turn the knob volume high like a child turns the page of history and blast the young fool of the moment, as long as the beat of James keeps playing. A few years ago, a dear friend of mine by the name of Eric Coble took the time out to instruct me on how to submit my play for one of the most prestigious grants in Cleveland. It was at the time called the Workforce Fellowship. The first time I submitted, I sent something that I thought would get past the white people who I imagined were on top of the board. And of course, I failed time and time again until my dear friend Eric Coble gave me the advice to send them my heart. So that's exactly what I did. I took a penknife, carved my heart out of my chest, put it in an envelope, and I sent it off. And what do you know? I won the grant, which was to the tune of $20,000. And it taught me a lesson before that instead of trying to send what you think people want to hear, throw your fastball. Always, always throw your fastball. So here's an excerpt from that fastball, which is called The King of Cade Street. It premiered in Dallas a few years ago in a small theater down there. This piece follows the story of Dime, D-Bear, and Scully. D-Bear is an ex-felon. Dime is a transgender sex worker, and Scully is a ex-con and an alcoholic and an ex-crack addict. It's all about how these three disparate personalities form this unlikely family in this sort of urban blighted environment. And the piece talks about how they find family and love in a place where most people wouldn't expect it to be. D-Bear. Just make sure you keep your narrow tail from in front of this building. Dime. Narrow? You done gone blind, man? Ain't nothing narrow about this sweet meat. Scully. Damn, that definitely seemed like a nigga's cue to leave this bitch before I get the fag flu up in here. Dime. One of these days I'm gonna kick your ass, you old fool. Scully. You ain't gonna do shit. Dime. Really? Scully. Really? Dime. Is that right? D-Bear. If the two of y'all want to claw each other like alley cats, y'all better take it outside. Scully. Don't worry, D. She ain't gonna do shit. Because if she fuck me up, who gonna take her garbage out or mop her hallway? You gonna do it in them heels? Dime. Crackhead motherfucker. Scully. I begs your pardon. I am a wino. I done deferred, adjudicated, and matriculated my appetite for the crack rock. Now I am just a respectable, law-abiding rummy, thank you. The monkey done found someone else's back to hop on. Dime, you still ain't about shit. Scully. And you didn't say that when I was bringing your food from the Arab when you was laid up last year. Dime. Oh, you gonna play that card. Scully. I don't got no shame. D-Bear don't keeps me around because of my good looks and charming personality. People keeps me around because I do shit. Look at them motherfuckers. Look at them, Dime, pointing to his hands. The only good damn thing that God ever gave me, the only thing that matters in this world is I can do things with these hands. Everything from birthing a baby to strangling a nigga. It's because of these hands I have a place in this world. You understand? You can have some high-toned nigga up on the hill in his own little world, pretty wife in the kitchen and a degree on the wall, but let his sink stop up, or let the brakes go out on that expensive car he tooling around in, or let the refrigerator go on the blink. What the fuck he gonna do? Not a goddamn thing. He gonna call a nigga like me, cause he knows nigga like me can do shit, fix shit, make shit all right again. And it's all in these hands right here. It's always a place for niggas like me. You think God plunges his own toilets? Hell of fuck no. You know when the holy shitter gets stopped up, God is on the phone. Hello? Hello? Yes, can you send Brother John up here? And here he come, some grungy angel nigga. I need you here now. It's an emergency. And you know that angel nigga just comes a running, comes to make it all right again. See, that's what I do, you faggot motherfucker. I make it all right again. I make it all right again. A few years ago, me and my newly married bride spent our date night around the gravesite of a very famous Clevelander who probably isn't famous enough, a gentleman by the name of Garrett Morgan. An inventor, and most people know him for the stoplight, and also he did the gas mask, but he was a far more interesting man even beyond these wonderful inventions. So this piece I want to read to you is about a little bit about his life and goes a little more in depth just beyond what we know him for. It is called Busload of Nuns Plunges Off Cliff. To be totally honest, this article has nothing to do with perishing nuns, but I felt that would be the only way to divert your attention from the hustle and bustle of life long enough to make you aware of a man I find truly astounding, so bear with me. For years, our schools have worked to include Black history in the history books. Unfortunately, there is a local chapter of African American history that has gone largely unread. The name of that chapter is Garrett Morgan. I know some of my readers believe you already know who Garrett Morgan was, the inventor of the gas mask and the stoplight. Those inventions were great, but they don't even scratch the surface of Garrett Morgan. Listed below are just a few of the highlights of his life. In the late 1920s, along the Vermilion River sat the Wakeman Country Club, a sprawling estate that boasted a hotel, a professional boxing ring, and hosted top prize fighters, a baseball diamond, and bleachers, where semi-professional teams played and entertained the crowds. The owner of the country club also owned a clothing manufacturing company and invited his workers out to the club on the weekends. The owner was Garrett Morgan, and all of the members were black. The club was a constant target of the local Ku Klux Klan, who resented its very existence. It was not uncommon for crosses to be burned outside of the club, causing the members to carry shotguns for protection. When Garrett Morgan came to Cleveland, he got a job at the L.M. Gross Company, a clothing manufacturing company. While there, he was allowed to make suggestions to improve the machinery. He invented several small inventions to improve the efficiency of the sewing machines. Of Garrett Morgan's inventions, the belt fastener was the most important. In 1908, Garrett Morgan married a woman that could have gotten him conceivably killed. He married Mary Gross, a woman he was to spend the rest of his time with. He and his new wife were roundly rejected by employers and families. They decided to open their own business, believing that they could never get another job due to their forbidden relationship. Mary Gross was white. Their clothing manufacturing business was successful. They paid their employees $75 per week, an unheard of sum for a factory worker of that time. A family of four would have been happy to make that amount of money today, let alone in those days. When Garrett Morgan's sewing machines would heat up, often the machines would scorch the fabric. To solve the problem, Morgan began experimenting with lubricant that could not only cool the machines down, but also not irritate the skin of the user. As the story goes, he wiped his chemical-stained hands on a cloth with a wiry fabric. When he returned, the cloth hairs had been straightened. He was intrigued. He put the chemical on his dog and then himself to test the chemical. Soon Morgan was running the Morgan Hair Refining Company. As a vehicle to sell his hair care products, Morgan founded the Cleveland Call, a newspaper aimed at the black middle-class population of Cleveland. Long neglected by the white newspapers, Morgan merged with another company and then stepped away from the newspaper. The paper still remains as the Call and Post. In 1961, at the age of 83, Garrett Morgan, legally blind, revealed his last invention, a small water capsule that would be installed in the manufacturing process that would douse discarded, still-burning cigar or cigarettes. This black genius died largely unheralded for his courage and talent. I have not, in this small column, done the man justice. I implore you, check out the Garrett Morgan story. On the third floor of the Cleveland State Library is the Cleveland Press Collection. Go there. Ask for all the information related to Garrett Morgan. There's a mountain of information about him. Seek it out and learn about one of the greatest men ever to come out of Cleveland.